It develops. We urge you to stay tuned to radio and TV and to stay indoors at all costs.
As of 12 noon tomorrow, say goodbye to the world as you know it. Say goodbye to
Metal Priestesses.
Hey everybody, it's Elizabeth from Metal Priestesses podcast. We are honored to have Allison Wolfe as our guest today. Allison, of course, was a pivotal part of the first wave Riot Girl scene with the band Bratmobile. And then she also had that zine Girl Germs. She has since been a part of several other musical projects. She's written for publications such as The Washington Post. She also has a really great podcast called I'm in the Band. So please remember to like the Metal Priestesses podcast on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Ladies and Germs, Allison Wolfe.
Hi, Allison.
Hi there.
Hi. Hello. Welcome to the party.
Here, I'm going to put my...
You want some Pepsi?
Oh. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hi.
Morning, y'all.
Hi, Allison. I'm Elizabeth.
Hi.
I have a blog that's dedicated to women in underground music.
Cool.
And I'm over in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to introduce everybody. That's Alejandra, and she's over in Detroit. She is a female record label owner.
Okay.
So we love that.
Hi.
Hello.
And then we have Jesse, Genevieve, and Morena, and they are all from the legendary Backstage Pass, who were one of the first punk bands, all women, 1977.
Oh, cool. That's amazing. My hair looks flat. Speaking of punk.
No, it looks great.
But your bangs are so perfect.
Oh, I know. They are.
Well, you know, you got to use the straightening iron and then curl it in. I don't know. I work.
Oh,
Yeah, give us your tips.
that's the key. Yeah, seriously.
Oh, God. I wish I had some more. But
Oh,
Dress is really, really cute also. I have to say.
oh, thanks. I know they're really reflecting. I'm sorry, but I guess I got the sunlight coming in the window or something. But
it's okay. You're sparkling.
it's
You're-
all right. Okay.
You're wonderful. You could do no wrong here.
So, Allison, we were just talking about how much the scene that you were in Washington reminds us so much of the early punk scene in LA. And I know you started with the zine Girl Germs. Do you have a copy of it?
I must have copies of Girl Germs somewhere, but I don't, you know, recently someone who I was friends with in the early 90s sent me a package and she said, you loaned me these zines in like 93 or something. And I just found them. So she mailed them back to me. And one of them was a copy of like issue number 2 of Girl Germs, maybe 1 and 2. And I was like, oh my God. But that's what's kind of happening now is some people that I knew or know, but was hung out with back then are sending me things now. So that's the only reason I might still have some of this stuff. I mean, I know it's somewhere, but that's the only reason I might have it somewhere where I could find it.
I wanted to show you one of the first Slash magazines that we were in.
So cool. Wow.
Issue number 1. But
That's in good shape.
I know.
And so you started a zine, and then all of a sudden, which is a lot what happened in the punk scene, like at the Mask, you know, we were there, we helped start the Mask, but you started with your zine, and then you just decided to start Bratmobile, pick up some instruments. Is that how it went?
Well, kind of. I mean, it's kind of was a slow getting there. I grew up in Olympia, Washington, where there already was a strong kind of super DIY music scene that centered around K records. and partially Evergreen State College as well. And I think, I don't know, like I just kind of had to sort of see more of it happening around me. But, you know, we didn't see a lot of that. But Kathleen Hannah moved to Olympia, like, I don't know, like right after I graduated from high school, I think, to go to college at the Evergreen State College. And I saw her around town that summer before I went to school, but I went off to college at University of Oregon in Eugene, Oregon. So she was just kind of hanging around, and I saw her. She looked really tough, kind of scared me. And yeah, like I always say, she looked like Tank Girl. She had a shaved head and combat boots. So she kind of like, you know, a tough punk girl. And she was running an art space that was part of her school curriculum, I think. And then also they started having shows there. So that's kind of how I at least got to know who she was going to shows there. But also I saw her band practicing there one time. Maybe they were playing a show, but if they were playing a show, there was maybe 3 people there. So but I think it was a practice. And she was in this band, Viva Knievel, and it was just so powerful. And she was just screaming and saying all these kind of feminist things. And I was like, whoa, wow. I mean, I didn't know she was in a band, you know, so that was really cool. And then there was this band, Calamity Jane, who was all girls, and they played a lot around town. And I saw them a lot that summer, and they influenced me as well. I think it took a while, but when I was at University of Oregon, I met Molly Newman, who is the drummer in Bratmobile, but she also was who I started Bratmobile with. And we were neighbors in the dorms. And she was also kind of loud and scary. I loved it.
They're the best people.
Totally. And and she also was very politicized in a kind of more national politics kind of way. And so that influenced me a lot too. I mean, I was raised by a lesbian feminist mother who super, like, you know, fought the power in all sorts of ways in our hometown. But I think sometimes you kind of take it for granted. Like, she started the first women's health clinic in Olympia, Washington, and was protested a lot for providing abortions at the clinic and things like that. So we grew up around a lot of that stuff. And with her just kind of being like, fuck you, whatever, you know, like, and fighting back. But at the same time, you still kind of take it for granted. You're like, okay, well, I grew up in Olympia where there's tons of strong women everywhere doing all this stuff. And you don't realize that the rest of the world isn't really like that until you go away. Not that Eugene, Oregon is representative of the rest of the world or country, but so anyways, but so Molly and I took a lot of kind of like socio-political progressive classes. That's kind of all we took really at the U of O. And that's actually why I had to transfer. And she probably did too, was because we weren't willing to take anything but kind of radical curriculum. So, but we got together and we just kind of started going, this town's hippie and boring and we're punk and like, let's, you know, I kind of introduced her to all the DIY music from Olympia, and we just really got into it all and started kind of being pen pals with some people like Rose Melberg from Tiger Trap. And the more we kind of networked with other girls, we'd also go up to Olympia and got to know Bikini Kill, who had just started, and would hang out with them and talk about feminism and stuff like that. And that, you know, that kind of networking and stuff is what kind of made us feel like we could do it too. It's that kind of strength in numbers thing. Like, you know, alone you feel stupid, but with a whole gang of girls you kind of feel powerful.
Absolutely.
Is your mom still an activist?
Well, she unfortunately died in 2000, so she passed away.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was ovarian cancer, was not good. But you know, she's remembered, and the clinic is still going, although her clinic after she died, just maybe a few years after, was firebombed. Well, a Molotov cocktail or something. I mean, I think it didn't do much damage, but the fire department came, and actually the fire department was on the same street. So they came and put it out right away, but the flooding, it did a lot of damage to everything in there. And the thing is the insurance company refused, well, they didn't refuse, but they raised the insurance like a millionfold because of that. And basically we're gouging because they said, oh, well, you're a risk because you provide abortions. So they had to stop providing abortions because they couldn't afford the insurance.
Oh my God.
The new insurance price. Yeah. But someone, there was a legislator who took a case, or took that example and took it to court and made a law that, or eventually made a law that said that insurance companies can't do that because it means they're supporting terrorism.
Wow.
So yeah, so that was a big change in Washington state, but it wasn't retroactive. So it couldn't affect the clinic. So they still can't provide abortions. They can't afford it. So.
Wow. So, oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something else, Allison?
Oh, no, but I was going to say, but Planned Parenthood exists now in Olympia. It didn't when my mom started. So that's where people kind of have to go now. So.
Yeah, yeah, Jenny and I were the original members of Backstage Pass. And I think, we definitely had a girl power. We're not going to let men tell us what to do, but it was a far more naive take on it. Like, we never saw ourselves as part of a scene, a feminist scene, yet it was really the underscore of what we did. So fast forward 15 years or so from when we did it, I had serious riot girl envy, I have to say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I did. I saw you guys doing your thing. I'm like, wait a minute, can I go back and start a girl fanzine? And
I think I have riot girl envy too.
I think so too, all of us.
That's so cool. I mean, but the thing is it really took foremothers in punk and feminism and stuff like that to really get us to a point where we thought we could do such a thing. So it all exists on a continuum. And I understand that times were different, and what they call, I guess, second wave feminism was different. I think a lot of, at least just looking at my mom and stuff, sometimes I think some of second wave feminism was about women having to prove themselves and to be like, I'm just as good as a man or better, or I have to work twice as hard to be, or to get just as much, or whatever it is, And I think that there was a lot of pressure for women to kind of be tough, to be like kind of, and look tough, and tough maybe in a way had been defined by men, But I don't think I don't think women were that naive, or even like, they're like, oh, we have to be just like men. But I think sometimes that's what happened in second wave. So I think as far as third wave feminism, I think what we were trying to do was like, let's uplift girly culture and even just silly teen girl bedroom stuff. And let's, like, why can't that be something that's like cool or awesome or feminist, Yeah. And also just looking at young girls and saying like, well, let's look at the lives of young girls and uplift that as well. And you don't always have to even just use the word woman. Like, young girls, they aren't women yet, maybe, or they don't want to call themselves women yet, whatever. They deserve feminism too,
It seems like your songs are really fun, like Cool Schmool, and some of those Bratmobile songs just have such a kind of a bit of humor to them. Also, you collaborated with one of our good friends, which is Alice Bagg, and she was on the show. Right. And of course, I completely relate to that 77 song. And me and Marina came to see you at the Echo. And then your video of 9 to 5. Is there something new happening with that? Or Also, is there a new record, something about Scorpio, or what's going on?
Oh yeah. So actually it was like 2 summers ago. Wow, I can't believe it. But Alice and I and Seth Bogart, who's in Gravy Train and Hunks and His Punks, and we're all friends, and we started a project band. And at first it was called Double Scorpio.
Double Scorpio. Alejandra's a twin, by the way. You're a twin, and Alejandra's a twin.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So Alice and I are both Scorpios, and like she's November 7th, and I'm November 9th. Seth is what, Pisces, I think. But
I'm the 15th. I'll have you know.
I'm the 4th.
Awesome. But yeah, I don't know, we had done this skit for Seth was doing this TV show with World of Wonder channel or something, and it was called Feelin' Fruity, and we were a fake band in a skit in one of the episodes. And so afterwards we were like, we should do this for real, we should try to play together. And so we did, and for a little bit, and we didn't write, we wrote like 6 songs, and we only played 3 shows. And I swear we had a different band name for each show. Like the first show, we were Double Scorpio. The second show, we were Scorpio. And then the third show, we were Clicky Bitches.
Clicky Bitches. I love
that. But we did play, or we did record an EP. We recorded the 6 songs that we had at a proper studio here in Echo Park at Station House Studio. And we finally decided to put them out. We've been sitting on them for a while. And so my friend Andy, who runs a record label in Vienna, Austria, he has decided to put it out on his label, Fat Cacao. And so you can get the actual record and digital downloads, whatever, on his Fat Cacao Bandcamp page. So.
That's so awesome. And can you tell our listeners a little bit about the 9 to 5 video that you collaborated on with Alice and Kathleen Hannah?
Love that video.
Oh, it's so cool. Well, I was just brought in, as a character or whatever. I don't think I did Dolly Parton justice, but I tried a little bit. But, who can? But I believe that was Alice's husband, Greg's idea to do 9 to 5. To reenact that. So it's such a great idea. And then Scott Stuckey, who made the video, and the whole crew at Evidence Studio, they really did a great job on that, set it all up with the props and everything, and the blue coffee, whatever. and Kathleen, oh my God, Kathleen was so perfect as, I forget the name of Jane Fonda's character, but anyway, she was so perfect as her. So.
Does anyone know it? Who was Jane Fonda's character?
Oh, I can't remember.
I knew it for a while. I'll look it up, but and then of course, and Alice.
And you had the wigs on and everything.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then great. Seth, and then we have Seth Bogart was the boss, and we got to tie him up. So that was great. So yeah, and I love that song too.
Yeah, I do too.
It's really great. So, and it's like, still rings true, sadly. But,
yeah.
So
yes.
I think Riot Girl people thought was so serious, but there was a lot of fun comedic aspect to it. And
yeah, I think that's one thing. You're right, and I'm glad you bring that up, because even just Kathleen Hannah, I mean, people didn't know her that well. We're kind of scared of her and whatever, and we're thought she was aggressive, or they would respond aggressively to her or something. And it's like she's actually really funny. And she always has been,
Yeah. And even the Bikini Kill lyrics, I think, were a little funny from time to time. So
yeah,
there's definitely humor in that scene.
Yeah.
But I think that whole scene really inspired me, because I started to get into Riot Girl when I was in middle school. So I was 95. And so it was the very tail end. But I think it really inspired me to what I do now with the blog, and that's just kind of giving free press to women in the underground, because I can't play in a band, so I have no musical talent whatsoever, so I figured I'd start a blog. I can do that.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, do whatever you love.
I have a kid that is a musician, and when the world was round, had a space called junior high. You know how everyone is so awkward in junior high, so it gave voice. It continues, but they had to close their retail space temporarily because of COVID. But it gave a voice to people that just were doing things that are different and non-binary, and just, you know, lots of diversity. And I think when it closed, people were like really sad and crying a lot. But they continue. They have a magazine called Junior High LA, I think, and it was a performance space and an art space.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it. I don't know if I ever got to go. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think it was a known space, but I never got to go to a show there or anything. So sadly.
Yeah, they're going to reopen. Cool. They're going to reopen.
Oh, that's cool.
With the
someday.
Someday.
I'm really curious if what inspired you back in those early days when you were putting all those pieces together and you were taking all those classes and first starting to play. What is the similarity to what inspires you now? What makes you get up in the morning and jump back in this?
Well, these days, not much. And I don't always get up in the morning. But I guess eventually I'll roll out of bed. But, well, I don't know. I mean, I think just that kind of sense of injustice, like just seeing injustice around you and stuff, and just being like, why? Like, why is this happening? Why would anyone put up with this? Why should we put up with it? But also needing to be creative. And I think that we all need to be participating in our own culture and communities and stuff until we die, like not just just in my 20s or something. And like everyone needs a creative outlet throughout their lives, and everyone needs to be participating in society, and don't just be a passive observer, and don't just like buy what they've stolen from you and sold back at double the price, you know.
Right. It's really similar to what we had Linda Ronstadt on the show, and I was her stylist in the 80s. She said something very similar about not just leaving it to the professionals to sing and dance and express yourself, but that we all need to do it too. Yeah. So, and
I love her. I'm reading her autobiography right now.
Oh, yeah, I could tell you the real story.
Okay, I can tell she's tight-lipped. I can tell. You can tell she's holding back a lot. She just kind of talks about who was hanging out where and when, and I'm like, no, I want the real her.
Call me.
I will.
Well,
Jenny
she
knows
might get
all.
mad at me. She might get mad at me. But I didn't sign an agreement, but she trusts me because we're still friends. But but I was going to say, you have a podcast as well. Are you still taping? Are you still doing it?
Well, it's kind of been like I had a podcast for a year, me and my former classmate at USC, Jonathan Shiflett, and we did a podcast for 1 year for Tidal, where, you know, it was our job and we got paid, and that was awesome. Yeah, and it focused on like women and music mostly, not all women, but you know, and it had this progressive band. It was called I'm in the Band. And I'm in the band, not with them.
Yeah, right. Big difference.
Seriously, a lot of people go like, don't you have something called I'm with the band? I'm like, hell no, I'm not with the band. I'm in the band.
I did both.
I gotta say, I listened to the Ann Magnuson episode last night because I saw that you did one with her, and she is just amazing. I was so excited to listen to it. I mean, what an inspiring, creative person on every level.
Yeah, she's amazing. I'm glad she was our final podcast episode for Tidal. So that was really, an honor to have her. And yeah, I've gotten to know her a little bit, and like every now and then I'll see her around town, and it's so cool. I know, I love her.
Okay, I know it's really corny, but Alejandra, could you ask Allison a twin question?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just wondering, I'm sure that having a twin, I know for me that it impacts my worldview a lot. I'm wondering if you find that as well, and if you have any collaborations with your twin, or do you guys have just really divergent identities?
Well, I think that I think it does, of course, inform everything in a way. But my sister, I felt like, tried to kind of differentiate herself early on, like really young, like 6, 7, something like that. And so we started having different clothes and different haircuts and things like that, And in high school, we didn't always hang out with the same people. In middle school, we hung out together and with the same people. But I think in high school, we kind of had different sets of friends and stuff. And she was much more academic than I was. And I'd say she was like an A+ student and I was an A-. But anyways, but she's smarter than me, I'm sure. But I don't know, like, so we kind of went, and after high school, we never lived in the same town again after that. Like because she went away to school. She went to Pomona College down here, and I went to University of Oregon, and then I moved, and then Evergreen State College. I moved back to Olympia, and then I moved to Washington, D.C. And the same time I moved to D.C., she moved back to Olympia. So it never was,
Oh, crazy.
And now she lives in Toronto, Canada. So she's been in Canada for quite a while.
Smart girl.
So, yeah.
What brought you to LA, actually?
Well, because I grew up in the rain and clouds and the gray of Washington State. So I knew eventually I'd make it here, but it was kind of a long path because I moved first to Washington, D.C., lived there for a long time, 13 years. And then I moved to New York for 3 years because I was like, I got to leave D.C. I just don't want to wake up die here. I don't know. Although I love D.C. and I miss it a lot. It's a beautiful city. And life was so easy there for me. But I just felt like I wouldn't grow if I didn't leave. I don't know if I've grown that much, but anyway. So then I moved to New York for 3 years and spent everything I had almost. And then was like, okay, I can't afford this. And partied. I had a great time. But then I moved to LA, and I've been here 10 years now. And I found that it's more open in a lot of ways. And I feel like I've had way more opportunities. Just for speaking at universities, speaking gigs, music. I've gotten to play in various bands and projects and things like that. And I just get asked to do a lot more things here. New York, it's like people hold it tight. Like they don't they don't let you know. You have to compete. And I didn't want to compete.
Very weird.
Right? Because as a twin, you grew up competing. So I don't want to compete. That's one thing.
For sure.
But and back to the twin thing, actually, I think one way that being a twin has affected me also is that I always feel like I need to have a companion. So even though she's not here, I feel like all my life I've kind of made someone else be that companion, or hoped they would be, or forced them to be. I don't know. But and that's kind of hard when you realize sometimes I'm just like, wow, you have other friends. Or whatever. Or like if I ask someone to do something, I kind of expect them to be available. Not anyone, but like my closest friends. And then I'm always surprised if they can't or won't. And I know that's weird. And I know I'm middle-aged now, and I'm like, why do you still expect this? But it's sort of ingrained. So, and I think that's a twin thing.
Yeah.
Alejandra, do you feel the same? Do you relate?
I would have to say I'm probably codependent as shit in a lot of ways. So probably, yeah. I think there's definitely that. I mean, I do spend a bit more time by myself, but I can totally relate. Like just wanting my twin sister lives half a block away though. So, yeah. So sometimes they'll be like, yeah, you know, with that drop in, you can feel free to like call and schedule something. That's okay.
Have either of you, Allison or Alejandra, had like that weird twin moment? Like I've heard stories about, you know, one twin hurts themselves, the other twin feels it. I've heard stories about, you know, twins will take the SATs and get the exact same questions wrong. So any stories like that ever happen?
Yeah, I think my mom told me that when we were little, that my sister was in the hospital and we were like in the waiting room or something, and that I got freaked out and like was like, they're hurting her, we got to go get her or something like that. My mom didn't understand, and so finally she just went back in the back, and I guess they were. So like,
oh wow,
you know, like yeah, stuff like that. And I know that like during that time when I moved back to DC, and Cindy had, my sister's name's Cindy, when she lived in Olympia, and she had this little cool little vintage shop that was right next door to a bagel shop downtown. And I was visiting for the summer, and I went downtown to go see her at the shop, but I stopped at the bagel place first, and I ordered some intricate special bagel off menu, whatever, and said, oh, please do this, that, whatever. And then I also asked if I could like and have it on a regular plate, and I was like, and take it out, and I was like, I'll bring it back, I promise, something like that. And the guy just stood there and stared at me and just shook his head and walked away, and didn't serve me, like didn't. And I was like, why is that? What? And finally I kind of yelled to the back, I was like, hey, can I order some? I mean, come on, can I get my order? And this woman came out from back and just was laughing. She's like, I'll take your order. And I was like, what is going on? She's like, I think it's a case of mistaken identity. And I was like, okay. And then I got my bagel out on the plate, and I went next door, and my sister's like, oh, I just got the same thing, and asked what was on it. And then she was like, oh, and they let you take the plate out too? I was like, oh my God, no wonder. Like it was just, you know, like 5 minutes before or something.
So funny.
That is crazy. You guys order the same bagels.
Yeah, I was like,
what about you?
And she's
Alejandra?
a picky eater.
Let me think. There'll be like times where Zoe will call me and be like, what's wrong? And on a couple of occasions, there has been something that I was like, just like processing, and she called it. But then a lot of times there was like absolutely nothing going on too. So I was like, nothing. I'm just watching Netflix. But yeah, in terms of like cosmic connections, it's hard to say. I don't know if I'm being like extra cynical today, but like sometimes I think maybe we'll have the same exact perspective on things. And so that like not needing to communicate, like it might be that we just like exchange a glance, but it's because we have like a very similar perspective, you know, like if there's something extra whack happening, we might like look at each other like, can you believe this? But yeah, I don't know whether it's like telepathic communication or just like the same sort of perspective.
Right.
Yeah.
Alejandra, what are some of the social justice things that you and your sister have been involved in Detroit?
I think one of the parallels that I have with Allison is our mom is also extremely radical. So we had a very radical upbringing as well. And definitely kind of grew up in the center of a lot of heat, just like what your mother experienced with her clinic. My mom has been very vocal about a lot of issues surrounding corruption, which resulted in blacklisting, stalking, violence, you know, all of that fun stuff. So we've just inherited a bit of her ethos. So Zoe and I work on different respective kind of, I don't know, there's different I guess, principles that each one of us sort of tackles. So social justice stuff, Zoe's been doing fundraising for people who are detained by ICE. And so she has like these bikini car washes that she sets up, and people
so cool.
that to generate funds. And then there's a calendar that goes along with it. So that these like pinups go with that. And then a lot of the stuff that I do is really focused more on literacy, because Detroit has our education system here is just completely dismantled. So so literacy is basically something that I invest a lot of time in, teach adult instructing, things like that.
Yeah, my mom went to Valley College. She said that she went to school with the Black Panthers. She thought she was super cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that is cool.
But she was always like I think she was a communist in the 40s. And yeah, she's like super liberal, and she went by her, well, no, she was engaged to somebody, and he was, I guess he was gay, and she joined the army as a whack. She just said, screw it up, and she was in World War II. Yeah, she did a lot of different things, and I see a lot of pictures of her like striking, and I think union strikes, whatever was going on at the time.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. She thought that our whole generation was illiterate.
Wow. Sorry,
that was her take.
Well, that's basically true.
You don't read. You're all illiterate.
Oh, well, it gets worse.
She could only see him now.
Yeah. It only got worse.
We don't even say complete words anymore.
I know.
Unfortunately.
We don't
Unfortunately.
Those kids today, I tell you, you can't tell if they're boys or girls. So I have a musical question for you.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So after working through all your bands here, I've been listening and really enjoying it. But I must say, as someone who plays both bass and guitar, did you have something against the bass in the early days? Huh? Yeah, right now, come on.
Well, the key part of Bratmobile was the mobile part and being mobile, and
no, the bass isn't that heavy. Come on, it's not an upright bass; it's an electric.
But
bass.
The amp, come on, the amp is big.
Good point. Okay,
seriously, like our first tour was in a Pontiac Catalina. That was my first car, 79 Pontiac Catalina, and we have played a lot of shows and tours with a car. So if you only have 3 people in the band, you're more likely to fit the people and the instruments in the car. Still, you kind of have to be like, what about the bass drum versus the Marshall cabinet? But so sometimes that's a toss up. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it was sort of economics and efficiency and stuff like that, like how.
And you don't care because you're a singer, right? Like,
yeah. Well, also we started not knowing how to play music, so, and also with a lot of examples of bands in Olympia and also from like Vancouver, Canada, Mecca Normal, which was just 2 people, guitar and singing. And so those bands and things like that were very influential to us. So we just didn't think you needed the standard formation, and we weren't professionals anyway. So like, and we didn't even know how to play. So
yeah, and in all fairness, bass players are a pain in the butt anyway. So I told
people do think we're anti-bass. It's funny, but I think eventually, like, I think on some of our later albums, we had someone play bass. And actually a friend of ours, Michelle Noel, was kind of in Bratmobile for a hot second playing bass. I think she might've played on one single or something. But it just was like, whoever's around, it's all expediency, like, how do we do this? How do you throw it together? How do you fit it in a car? So.
Yeah, plus your original fans would say, oh, they added a bass, they've sold out.
Right.
But I agree, it does sound better with bass. So,
Allison, when you did those early tours, did you have a lot of flack from audiences that, were far away from Olympia, where things are a little bit more liberal.
Well, I don't think we got as much shit as like Bikini Kill. Like they really got it. And also, but their lyrics were more direct, you know, and kind of more, I guess, more or perceived as more aggressive or something. And my lyrical style was more about, well, first of all, just kind of poking fun at things and making fun of myself too. But also kind of showing more how the personal is political, and how does sexism kind of play out in our everyday lives, in our everyday relationships. And a lot of do as I say and not as I do, like singing about what I wish I'd said or done in a particular situation, but it wasn't what I did.
Right.
And so it's a lot of stuff like that I think to maybe people sounded more personal. People would always be like, oh, what guy is that song about? And it's like, well, it's rarely about, well, I don't know. Maybe I'm lying. It was about someone, but in a way, it doesn't matter. I don't want to individualize it, because it's like, a lot of guys act like this or do that, you know? And so I don't want to say, oh, it's just that one guy. Yeah, fuck him. Right. It's like, no, this is sexism in our everyday lives and in relationships and stuff. So that's usually what I sung about. And also trying to build up self-esteem in young girls. And I guess also myself. And I tried to implicate, you know, at the same time I needed it. And also try to implicate myself in the songs. Like, we're all part of this. We're all playing into it and stuff. Yeah. So I think that in that way, because we are kind of goofy and funny, and maybe the lyrics seemed more personal or something, maybe people didn't feel quite as threatened by us. But also I'm wimpier than Kathleen, that's for sure. And in ways. And I don't know, whatever. But sometimes, you know, actually our second show was in Olympia, and we opened for the Melvins. And and the whole town was just crawling with like heshers that day. It was cool, but lots of bro energy. Yeah. And I love the Melvins, and I know that that's not their desired audience, but that's kind of what they got, you know, at the time. Right. And so I guess at that show, while we were playing, Kathleen was out in the audience and supporting us and everything. But she came up to us afterwards and was like, hey, how are you guys? Are you guys okay? And I was like, yeah, what do you mean? I'm great. We just opened for the Melvins. You know, I was so excited. And she was like, oh, okay. Because there are all these guys yelling death threats in the audience. Like all these guys saying they wanted to kill you.
Oh my God.
I know, but luckily I don't have the best hearing. I don't have the best eyesight, and so I didn't notice a thing. So
we grew up. When we had our band, it was a really sexist scene, and I remember even like, I don't know. I remember going home with Richard Hell one night, and I know, and I was like, maybe not. Like, and he was like, you know, I have a lot of other choices. And I was like, yeah, okay. Well, whatever.
Well, you know, we talked to a lot of people on here, you know, who were in bands in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. And it was just, there was so much misogyny back then. And, you know, even talking about in terms of making records, you were always, you know, having to compromise with the male producers and do all that. And they had some great stories about it. How about for you? Did you face a lot of that?
Just like out in the field or out in?
Well, in doing
in general,
in recording or out touring.
Yeah.
You know,
You got to tour with Sleater Kinney.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we played some shows with them. We were supposed to tour with them, but then Carrie hurt her back and the whole tour got canceled.
Oh.
Yeah. And no one told us until the last minute. Anyways, just saying. And that tour, and the tour was never rebooked, which kind of pissed me off. But anyways, but we did play some shows with them. And but Bratmobile's first tour was with Heavens to Betsy, Corin Tucker's first band. And we toured together, and that was really great. I mean, it was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy, but it was great. I think that one thing that I notice a lot that I feel, the sexism I feel is like, when you're playing or touring or something and you walk into a venue, obviously you're showing up before the doors are open because you got to load in or sound check or whatever. Yeah. And I cannot tell you how many times I have been treated like, why are you here? We're not open yet. Come back later. Why are you trying to go backstage? You know, lots of extra checking if you've got the right pass and stuff like that, because why would a girl be in the band? Why would a girl be going backstage unless she's a groupie and all that kind of stuff? And that's, I think it still happens. The assumption is still, who are you? Why are you here? And it doesn't matter if you're headlining or what, you know, it's like, it's kind of nuts. And I've, in my interviews for my podcast with other women musicians, they've told me the same things. And you're just like, oh my God, really? And how many times people have tried to kick me out of the backstage or kick me out of the venue when I'm playing. Like,
in the band.
Yeah.
I feel like
security, but
yeah, that's terrible. One of the things that I kind of have to wonder though is, do those instances of sexism also occur because there's not enough space for femme and women performers to be in bands? Like, I feel like there's a disproportionate amount. Yeah. There's a lot more male performers. And so it perpetuates the stereotype that playing music is masculine, you know? So I just feel like that sexism is part of a maybe deeper issue or question.
Well, yeah, for sure. And, but, you know, and I also think that even when you do, I mean, I do think that girl bands and stuff probably stand out more, and some guys sort of mistake that as power or whatever, but or privilege. but no, it's like, no, we're just more interesting than you, okay? But so and you know, whatever. But like, it doesn't mean we have more power. It doesn't mean we get paid more. In fact, we usually get paid less, and we get pushed around more, and we, you know, are asked. Also, who's asked to do volunteer or play benefit shows and stuff like that all the time? The girl bands, especially the politicized girl bands, you know, and it's like, oh my God. And then God forbid you ask even for like cab fare to the show or dinner or something. It's like, it's a benefit. It's like, oh my God, you know, we've been volunteering labor our whole lives.
Yeah, exactly.
I know, you know, when I worked with the Bangles, I was their stylist, and they had so much pressure from the producer about having like session musicians, you know, that they had to fight that all the time because they were great players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That surprises me.
But I think they might have been pressured a little bit on their first major album, but then after that they were like, no, like this is not going to happen again. And I just remember when they recorded Hazy Shade of Winter, and it was just like they just went in and did it themselves because they're perfectly capable, you know. And but it was really, that was like a really tough time, you know.
Yeah, I could see that in mainstream music. I mean, luckily it's like maybe not luckily, but in the punk world, right? There aren't any session musicians hanging around, like getting paid to play.
Right.
But
it's the pressure of a major label with, you know, the pressure of like singles and that kind of thing. They don't care about us.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when we were in Backstage Pass, I actually felt like people didn't push us around very much. You know, there was that interband kind of dynamic, like that Jenny was saying.
I like this.
I mean, but honestly, I felt like we would show up at clubs and actually given our due and treated pretty fairly. You know, there were always those few guys who would say, you know,
there were
few little girls who would kind of pat you on the head or try for the butt, you know.
Yeah, but you two are tough.
There was two guys that were twins. I'm not going to say who they were. Hey, they were twins, but no, they were brothers. They were brothers, and they tried to steal our publishing. They wanted to, like, da 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 da, sign here. Like, no,
Whoa.
hell no, you know. So there was that, remember?
Yeah, I played keyboards for them on a few sessions, and they were very cute little girl kind of vibe. Yeah, that's fine, sweet.
Yeah.
It's the best you have, sweetheart, kind of vibe.
Can you do it 12 more times? Yeah, no, but they tried to steal our publishing, you know, but not that we had any to give, but I don't know. But we never did it because we were not that dumb, you know? I mean,
Allison, I remember a few years ago, I was reading Vogue at a hair salon, and it had like a whole spread on Riot Girl. And,
really?
Well, Riot Girl fashion. So,
oh God.
And I had to laugh because I kind of think that was not the point at all of the movement.
Right.
So what do you think about when people talk about the fashion? Because I think it's bled over now to this generation, and they think more of it as a fashion movement than as the movement that it really was.
Really? It's so funny because I mean, I think at the time too, some people thought like, oh, well, don't they look cute, whatever. But I mean, definitely like clothes as signifiers were important, just like they were in punk, right? Like, how do you find your people, right?
Right.
So, but these days, now that everything's kind of with mass, cheap manufacturing of clothing and like whatever, all sorts of horrible things, like you can get all of the punky looking stuff at like Hot Topic or whatever, you know, or wherever.
You couldn't do that back then. You had to, like, we had Pleasant Gaiman on the show, and she said, you know, we used to shop at the Pleasure Chest and stuff like that for concrete.
Well, even in 1995, like you couldn't find green nail polish. Like that was. I remember when
Wet and Wild maybe, but
Hard Candy came out, but you had to order.
Oh yeah, right, and all the like
the shipping and handling,
colors, like Manic Panic and all that. Yeah, like you're right. That's the thing. Like nowadays, people can just you can just buy it easily, and now you can just buy it online. But yeah, so I'm not going to say that wasn't important. But at the same time, I look back at what we were wearing then, and it's so funny that people say it was a fashion statement because compared to what, you know, women wear now or girls or whatever, it looks pretty dumpy, you know, like kind of baggy, oversized thrift store clothes. And I'm just like, oh God, they thought that we were fashion plates.
It was also kind of the time of grunge, but not that I think you guys were all that influenced by grunge and how they looked.
Yeah, I think we were.
Yeah.
To a certain extent.
I know Kurt Cobain was a huge fan of the Riot Girl movement. And so I think that probably helped a lot of people get to know it a little bit more.
Yeah. He was around like at parties and shows and stuff. And very supportive. He's quiet, but supportive. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you like to announce your new fashion line while you're on?
Well, I do have to say that the media came in and really did kind of turn us into like a fad and stuff like that. And we felt like they kind of, you know, watered down our message and stuff like that. And we just never felt like we had any use for the media. We created our own platforms, you know, fanzines, lyrics, whatever. And that was our voice and that was our representation. So we didn't really feel the need to deal with the media. You know, eventually I guess we had to deal with them, but we didn't like it and we didn't like what they were saying. And I felt like it was kind of crappy journalism a lot of the times, a lot of pitting women against each other, trying to have a conflict or a cat fight to, you know, sell the paper or the story. And also like pigeonholing other women who didn't identify as Riot Girls. Like any woman in music at that time, and maybe even still are called Riot Girls. And they didn't want to be. And it's kind of just so many different things. It's just lazy journalism. But that really bothered us, of course. And but like I said, it's funny even now to see that it could even have been a fashion statement, because sometimes I look, I'm like, that was not good fashion.
What was LadyFest about, Allison?
Oh, well, I came up with the idea for LadyFest after I was living in Olympia again when my mother was sick. And I don't know, I helped organize this kind of group, Riot Girl retrospective for the Experience Music Project Museum, and out of Seattle. I think they changed. Now they're called the Pop Museum or something like that. But they wanted to do some kind of Riot Girl retrospective and interview a bunch of us. So I helped organize and gather all these people together back in Olympia. And we went through a bunch of interviews that are on videotape. And I helped organize some events. And I think it was the first time that a lot of us Riot Girls had been back together in the same room, you know, and really talking about it and maybe even feeling proud about it, because I think there was such a backlash afterwards, and we all felt ashamed that it fell apart, ashamed that it wasn't better, that we didn't get anywhere, or we felt we didn't get anywhere with it, whatever. So that was kind of nice to have someone acknowledge it historically and stuff like that. And then Cora and Tucker and I think Sharon Cheslow were like, hey, maybe we should continue something. Like, why do we just put it all away? And now we're all doing these cool things individually, but why can't we harness some of that networking power, you know? And Corin had wanted to do kind of a Lilith Fair thing, like, you know, just a punk women's tour. But I thought, oh, that's just too much work, whatever, although it's all a lot of work. So I was like, why don't we have a festival, like right here in Olympia, where a lot of this started, and have women controlling the festival on every level, like doing all the work, all the performers, everything. And so that started, and it wasn't me who put it on. It was my idea and I named it, but it was a whole bunch of women who worked together tirelessly to put on this amazing festival that came out in 2000, was the first one in Olympia. It was so great. But I know it was a lot of hard work and not easy, not easy on relationships, I'm sure. But it continued. And then people kind of took the torch and did it in their own towns and cities across the country and world, actually. And yeah, that went on for a while. I don't know if there's any still going on, but that was pretty cool. And I just, after that, I enjoyed attending and playing those festivals more than organizing.
Right. Are you missing going to shows or playing shows right now? It's so difficult. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been a way to do kind of outdoor shows. Like, I know that it's hard to control the crowd and how are people masking and distancing, but I feel like there is a way that you could do it and have small outdoor shows and just be strict about the masking and only be close to someone in your own pod and whatever. And I feel like it would be fine. But, you know, but again, a lot of the work that leads up to these things, like practicing, like, do you really, I don't really feel like bandmates should be in the practice space together enclosed, breathing on each other for hours on end. So I don't know, you know.
At this point, I can't remember any of our set list. It's just gone.
I do it once a week. The last set that we had planned out, just so it stays somewhere. Because I keep thinking, can we practice in my backyard, or my neighbors like totally kill me? Yeah,
I'm just like, I'm like yelling at my guitars, like, just shut up. I'm not going to pick you up today, okay? It's not going to happen.
Allison,
leave me alone.
Are you still involved with the women's movement on any level?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not involved in any like official, you know, organizations really. Well, there is a group in LA that I've been part of, but I'm not as active as I should be, called Turn It Up. And it's a group of like LA women music people who've just been trying to get together and have meetings and talk about issues and stuff. So that's cool. I haven't been participating as much as I'd like to, but that's cool. That's happening.
When junior high opens up again, can I invite you come to the space?
Please do. I'd love to go. Yeah, believe me. I heard the other night that there was a band playing out in the middle of Sunset and in Echo Park, and impromptu, and I kind of could hear something from way down the street where I live, and I was like, "What is that?" And then someone called me, a friend of mine, and said, "Do you hear? I think there's a band playing in the middle of Sunset." And I ran down there because I'm like, "Oh my God, I want to see a band."
Just anybody.
Yeah, I got there too late, but it was an event for Trans Remembrance Day.
Oh,
and
yeah, great.
It was cool. I mean, I'm sure it was cool. I missed it, but I still saw some people gathered, and I was like, why can't we have some of this? I mean, I understand why huge festivals, you know, big bands and big festivals shouldn't happen because you squish people in there. But I feel like kind of small outdoor kind of DIY stuff would be fine because you don't get the numbers of people, and you could be strict about it, and the band could just simply say, "I'm not playing if you're not wearing a mask and if you're not being cool," you know. And
it's like the old days when they say, "Put away your phone," you know, or we're not going to do another song, okay?
Right.
You know, it should be like, "Put on your mask" or "Get out," you know.
Yeah. But I feel like it could be happening, even if it's not a money-making scheme, although somehow we have to make money, right? But, you know, you could have a donation or something. But, yeah, I don't know. I'm just surprised. I'm surprised venues haven't, like, tried to do stuff like that in their parking lots or something.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Drive-in movies, anything.
Right. If people are allowed to, you know, eat and drink out in a parking lot, why can't we have a small show in a parking lot?
Some of the bands did do the drive-in theater, and I saw Metallica did one, and they were charging like $150 per car, and just to go watch the movie, not like the actual concert.
Oh wow, yeah, that's
I'd rather go play on the playground.
I know. My husband loves Metallica, but he's like, no way. It's like, I'll just wait for it to come on DVD. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Wow.
Allison, thank you so much for coming on our show.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure to meet you.
Good to meet you guys too. And I want to hear this Linda Ronstadt stories later.
She's got them all. She lived with her.
Oh my God. I love her. I love her so much. I love her so much, and I can tell she's holding back big time with this book. And so I'm just like, all right.
I read it and I was like, yeah. No, she was amazing. She was an amazing boss, and she was an amazing person to be on tour with and dress. And yeah, the voice.
Jenny tells me stories, and I'm like, I can't imagine Linda Ronstadt saying that.
Oh God. You know, I have some good ones, but I just remember walking through her neighborhood with her, and we were walking, and then O.J. Simpson was like in the backyard with his chow dogs, and she's like, Jenny, she goes, I don't trust that man. And then that was like years before, like the incident.
Right.
Jenny, I don't trust that man. He was like scowling, you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones. I was young, so I remember everything.
Oh, good. Okay, you got right.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. Really, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you so much.
Such an honor.
Thank you for your music and everything.
Yes. Thank you guys too for your music. It takes a village. It takes all of us.
That's right.
LadyFest.
All right. Have a great afternoon.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.